In the quiet of the night, when the world finally slows down and distractions loosen their grip, there is a moment that reveals who we truly are. Long before alarms, artificial lights, and endless scrolling defined our evenings, the early Muslims approached sleep as an act of awareness, not escape. For them, sleep was not merely the body shutting down, it was the soul preparing to return to Allah in a state of humility and trust. And in that forgotten mindset lies a lesson our restless generation desperately needs. The Quran reminds us that night itself is a sign. Allah says, "And we made your sleep a means of rest, and we made the night as clothing." Surah An-Naba 78, 9-10. Sleep was designed as mercy, a covering that allows the human being to recover physically and spiritually. Early Muslims understood this deeply. They did not treat sleep as something random squeezed between entertainment and exhaustion. They treated it as a transition between effort and surrender, between control and reliance on Allah. When you study the life of the Prophet Muhammad, you discover that his relationship with sleep was intentional and balanced. He was the busiest human to walk the earth, leading a community, teaching revelation, resolving disputes, caring for family, and carrying the weight of an entire ummah. Yet he never slept carelessly. Before resting, he would remember Allah, purify himself, and align his heart. In Sahih Bukhari, it is narrated that he would perform wudu before sleeping, just as he would for prayer. This was not ritualism, it was preparation. Sleep for him was a small return to Allah, a reminder that life itself could end in that stillness. The early Muslims inherited this consciousness. They lived in a world without artificial stimulation, but more importantly, they lived with an active heart. When night arrived, it was not filled with noise, it was filled with reflection. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu was known to patrol the streets at night, not because he could not sleep, but because he felt responsible even in darkness. Others would sleep early, knowing that dawn carried obligations greater than comfort. Fajr was not a rushed prayer squeezed before work, it was the axis around which their sleep revolved. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala draws our attention to this discipline when He describes the believers. They used to sleep but little of the night, and in the hours before dawn, they would seek forgiveness. Surah Ad-Dhariyat 51, 17-18. Notice what is being praised here. Not sleeplessness for its own sake, but conscious rest that left room for connection with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Their nights were balanced, resting the body, awakening the soul. Contrast this with modern sleep. We stay awake not out of purpose, but out of distraction. Screens glow while hearts grow tired. We delay sleep chasing content that leaves no trace of benefit, then wake up spiritually depleted. The Quran warned us about heedlessness long ago. Allah says, "The time of people's reckoning has drawn near, while they are in heedlessness turning away." Surah Al-Anbiya 21:1. Heedlessness does not always look sinful. Sometimes it looks like exhaustion without meaning. One of the most striking Sunnah practices related to sleep was the Prophet's habit of sleeping on his right side and placing his right hand under his cheek, as reported in Sahih Bukhari. This simple posture carried symbolism. It mirrored the humility of one who knows he will rise again by Allah's permission, or not at all. The early Muslims slept lightly attached to the dunya because their hearts were anchored elsewhere. They also avoided excessive sleep. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ warned against habits that dull the heart. While rest is mercy, excess leads to laziness. Balance was the key. The early Muslims worked hard during the day, slept with intention at night, and rose with clarity. Their sleep strengthened their worship instead of competing with it. Perhaps the most powerful difference lies in what they did before sleeping. The Prophet ﷺ would recite Ayat al-Kursi before sleep, as mentioned in Sahih Bukhari, promising protection from shaitan until morning. He ﷺ also encouraged reciting Surah Al-Ikhlas, Al-Falaq and An-Nas, blowing into the hands and wiping over the body. This was not superstition, it was spiritual grounding. Sleep was entered under divine protection, not mental chaos. Think about how different our nights would feel if we closed the day with remembrance instead of regret. The early Muslims understood that the last thoughts of the day shape the first thoughts of the next. And the Quran confirms this inner continuity. Indeed, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. Surah Ar-Ra'd 13:28. Rest is not only physical, it is emotional and spiritual. There is also a profound lesson in how early Muslims viewed waking up. Rising for Fajr was not an interruption of sleep, it was the purpose of it. The Prophet said that when a person sleeps, shaitan ties knots at the back of the head. But when one wakes up and remembers Allah, a knot is undone. When he prays, all knots are undone, and he rises energetic and in good spirits. Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. Sleep, remembrance and prayer were interconnected. Miss one and the chain weakens. Today, many Muslims struggle with consistency in prayer, not because of disbelief, but because of disordered nights. Late sleep produces heavy mornings. Heavy mornings produce rushed prayers. Rushed prayers weaken the heart, and the cycle continues. The Sunnah offers a way out, not through guilt, but through alignment. The early Muslims slept differently because they lived differently. Their days were purposeful, their nights were sacred, and their hearts were awake even when their bodies rested. They understood that sleep resembles death. Allah says, Allah takes the souls at the time of their death, and those that do not die during their sleep. Surah Az-Zumar 39:42. Each night was a rehearsal for the ultimate return. That awareness changes how a person lies down. This does not mean they lived in fear, it means they lived in readiness. Sleep became an act of tawakkul, handing over control to Allah. When you sleep with remembrance, you admit your weakness and Allah's power, and there is peace in that surrender. The lesson for us is not to imitate their lifestyle perfectly, but to revive their mindset. Begin by honoring the night. Detach from distractions earlier. Make wudu before sleep, even when tired. Let your last words be dhikr, not noise. Intend rest as a means to worship better tomorrow. These small shifts carry barakah beyond what we expect. The Prophet Muhammad taught us that actions are judged by intentions. Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. Even sleep, when intended for strength in obedience, becomes worship. This is the beauty of Islam. It turns ordinary acts into eternal investments. Why did early Muslims sleep differently? Because they were awake to reality. They knew life was temporary, accountability was certain, and Allah was near. Their nights reflected their faith. And perhaps if we reclaim even a portion of that consciousness, our hearts will find the rest our bodies have been chasing all along.